welcome to Labour Lens. I am Sharon Ijason. Recently, the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association rewarded and recognized enterprises that are excelling in terms of innovation, governance, and more. We have details for you in this edition of the program. We will be right back. In the quest to encourage businesses to grow, the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association (NECA) decided to hold an annual Excellence Award for business owners. It's the first of its kind, with the organizers taking into account the performance of employers in the year 2020. For many corporate bodies who won awards, organizers say they passed through rigorous screening.
Government should see it as something that should be quickly attended to. Such issues as they are not being able to access raw materials for their production, such issues as government policies, unfavorable government policies, such issues as double taxations, such issues as the regulatory authorities now becoming what we call revenue agencies, without necessarily paying attention to the fact that the more we are able to keep these businesses running, the better for our country, the better for the economy of our country. And so we always will advocate the government to say that rather than the regulatory authorities or the agencies of government, rather than see themselves as revenue generators, they should pay attention to the fact that the continuous existence of businesses in Nigeria is what keeps the economy going, and that should be at the front burner.
25 companies emerged winners at the maiden edition of NECA 2020 Employers Excellence Awards ceremony. Companies like Dangote, MTN, and Nestle won multiple plaques at the event.
He has gone beyond the level of where he is looking at what benefit he's going to get from the business. Now his primary objective is what's the kind of legacy his group of companies is going to leave behind. And in these days of so much of disturbance, unemployment levels, his next passion is to see how he can create employment and bring more peace into the country. That is why, apart from having our core focus on the manufacturing sector, we are now diverting into the agricultural sector, which can, the rice, sugarcane, tomato, these can generate massive employment levels. So this is what makes the company exceptional. His vision for the country and his passion to transform his vision into action.
Immediately COVID reared its ugly head, we declared a work from home approach for our employees. Even before the federal government announced the lockdown, we had started working from home. And it would interest you to know that till now, a lot of our employees are still working from home because it's important to prioritize the safety of our employees. So not only did we prioritize their safety in terms of working from home, we made available all the productivity tools to enable them to do their work effectively. We gave additional data to enable our employees to do their work so that they would not need to spend additional money on data to get the job done. We made sure that we gave the usual annual salary increase. We guaranteed the jobs of our employees during that period.
Representative of government at the event said the initiative will set the pace for local employers to adopt best practices in their operations such that they match their performance with reputable employers globally.
I would like to encourage those employers who, even though have worked hard but have not won any award on this occasion, to work harder as their efforts will be recognized in the future. If not today, it will come tomorrow. So be patient and keep working harder. And I just want to add that this is a huge encouragement to those who survived the scourge of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The ministry ensured, via the MSME Survival Fund, micro, small, and medium enterprises, MSMEs, have benefited from the payroll support scheme, which supports MSMEs in meeting their payroll obligations and safeguard jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic. by paying up to 50,000 to a maximum of 10 employees for a period of 3 months. Despite the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic, the payroll support intervention helped the recipient companies stay in business, ensuring that employees who are strategic elements of the business growth are retained by their respective companies.
The Employers Excellence Award was established to celebrate organizations that have implemented policies, systems, and processes that create and sustain enterprise, competitiveness, productivity, industrial peace, and harmony.
When you look at the environment we are all participating today in our country, we still have a lot of opportunities that are yet to be tapped, especially our industries, the manufacturing sector. We have a lot of opportunities that have not yet been tapped, and therefore we will be supporting NECA, our employers, to see to it that we're able to expand even our production levels so that we can be able to cover all the commanding heights of our economy.
It was announced earlier that the criteria for the awards is leadership and governance, innovation, productivity and corporate performance, effective human resource management and industrial relations. Others are technology optimization, occupational health and safety, inclusiveness and diversity, as well as responsible business conduct and corporate social responsibility.
I think one of the things that the company is known for is, the fact that we remain committed to our employee relations throughout, even before and even during the COVID-19 period. We made it in such a way that people felt safe, though they were not coming to the office, but of course we were still reaching out to every one of them. Of course, salaries, remuneration were being paid, and of course, constant check on everybody. We broke ourselves into teams, and we constantly checked each other throughout the period.
All the expectations from government in terms of support.
Well, the kind of support that is required from government, of course, is maybe a policy formulation that will encourage employers and will continue to improve in terms of the way things are done. And we expect that these kind of policies, through bringing down, I would say probably bringing down maybe the rates to below, or say single-digit loans from the banks, for instance. Those kind of policies will encourage employers and encourage people who want to start up their businesses in Nigeria to do so.
For us, it's been a lot of open communication, a lot of transparency as well. At every step of the way during the pandemic, we had very open communication. We were, little welfare checks, checking on people, making sure they're okay. And I think the employees could relate to our genuine concern about them.
I'm very happy that we won the award for the best pharmaceutical company, the best employer in the pharmaceutical industry in Nigeria. And we're very elated, we are happy because it's a validation of all the efforts that we are putting into building a great company. We're probably Nigerian, and we have come a long way, 25 years now. And I believe we still have many more to come. So we're happy that NECA has recognized FITSIN, and we're hoping that there will be many more to come. In terms of the organized private sector, I believe that the government can also help in terms of the policies, in terms of providing funding for the pharmaceutical industry, in terms of imports and exports, providing more opportunities for local content to be shown to other people within Africa and also outside Africa.
The feeling for us, I think, is one of goodwill. We're quite excited. We're happy that we have been recognized. 2020 was an exceptional year. It was a year completely unprecedented, one for the history books. And to have put in the effort and navigated through it with the employees at the forefront of our plan, making sure that everyone was safe and keeping the business running, and then to be recognized for that, I think is an exceptional thing for us. So we're quite pleased with NECA. So we need to innovate and bring in more innovative ideas to continue to drive the right kind of culture and behavior throughout the organization.
On the Profile interview segments this week, I'll be speaking with the Director General of the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, Dr. Timothy Olawale. He tells us why it's expedient at this point in time for organized private sector to give awards to enterprises and business owners. We will be right back. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you.
After a very long time.
Yes.
I think most people have been speaking with in the past 4 weeks
have been
a very long time.
It's been quite a while.
But of course, a lot of things have been happening in the organized private sector.
Yes.
And recently, NECA gave awards to employers of labor in the country. Can you tell us why it's expedient at this point in time to actually take that step?
Well, it's an opportunity for us to take a step back, appraise the performances of businesses, the contribution of businesses to the economy, and also celebrate their resilience. The never say die disposition of businesses in Nigeria despite the unfriendly business environment. And that was exactly what we did. It's also supposed to celebrate international best practices. Those who are top-notch in their staff management, staff matters, issues that has to do with staff welfare, safe work environment, and best international practices like issue of elimination of child labor in the world of work. So all together is basically to see a situation where we can identify best practices, best performers, use them as benchmark, celebrate them, and use them as encouragement to others. Okay,
so can you tell us how many people were awarded and probably what were the criteria used to measure this vis-a-vis the challenge of COVID-19 pandemic that the world is still faced with?
Every sector of the economy had winners. And when I say that, you know, NECA happens to be the umbrella body for employers of labor in all sectors of the economy. You have employer bodies, sectoral employer bodies that are affiliates of NECA. So each of the sectoral bodies, about 23 of them, had sectoral winners. Then we now have an overall winner who was the best performer in the entire exercise. And what could be those criteria? Like I said, is a measure of best practices, people management, staff welfare, motivation, then compliance with laws of the land. Like for instance, you have the social labor laws, the Pension Reform Act, the Employee Compensation Act, and so on and so forth. These are statutory laws that speaks to staff welfare. You want to see which of them is compliant, notwithstanding the circumstances surrounding businesses in Nigeria. And those are basic indices that constitute the benchmark for measuring who did well or didn't do well.
Looking at the issue of the COVID-19 pandemic, which the world is still faced with, how would you say that the organized private sector in Nigeria has been responding to this development?
Well, so far so good. Businesses are beginning to bounce back. Initially, it was very harrowing and tasking, especially when you discover that for several months, businesses were shut down. Even the few ones that constitute essential businesses that were operating were not operating optimally. So with support here and there, minimal support from government, but businesses themselves taking the bull by the horn and reinventing themselves. Businesses are bouncing back with understanding from their workers, who in some instances had to sacrifice as well. Businesses are coming back on stream. Unfortunately, some sectors are not fully back. like the hospitality and tourism, for instance. Even now, with the assumed second wave, most of their businesses are still shut down. And even those that are not shut down are operating skeletally.
Okay, moving forward, despite the fact that we know that there are challenges in the organized private sector and even in almost every sphere of life, be it for government or even for factories, just name it. The concern now will be that, according to the ILO DG, for example, you will say it should not just be the normal, but a better normal. So, yeah, a better normal. So, despite the various challenges that that's actually on the table, can you tell us what is NECA's position towards ensuring that members of the association actually adhere to decent work for workers in their workplace?
That is a very difficult one because, as it were, businesses are really having it tough and rough. And we had also impressed it on businesses that the very last measure that they could possibly take, even when things are rough, will be a separation from their staff. In other words, issue of disengagement or right sizing or whatever you want to call it, or redundancy, should be the last on their list. And so far, they have actually kept faith with the council from their representative body, like NECA. However, there are instances when they have no option. Now, issue of decent work, I usually say, has to do with the bread and butter aspect of the work experience. For instance, you talk of benefits that accrues to a worker, which is what differentiates them from the casuals. Now, there has been that argument and that conversation that what is expedient is that there must be jobs in the first instance before we start talking of decent work. But even at that, we have also said there is also the necessity for decent work as standards. We might not get there overnight, but we must understand that that is the benchmark that has been set and the standard that we must aspire to. So businesses are encouraged to embrace decent work, but while you are working towards the decency, as much as possible, try and ensure that you keep the full complement of your staff. Do not compromise or sacrifice continued employment at the altar of decent work.
So what would be your message to those particular employers that probably are not even part of NECA and are probably not even adhering to safety procedures, or what would be the standard that would have been dished out to them if they were part of the association?
For us at NECA, we will continue what we call continued enlightenment for the rank and file of businesses, whether they are organized or in the informal sector, or they are members of NECA or no members of NECA. We are also encouraging them to come under the umbrella of the representative body like NECA, so that they can also benefit from the experience and knowledge shared amongst our members with regards to what is expected of them. They can also benefit from guidance on legal perspectives, regulatory perspectives, and we can also, iron sharpens iron, we can also guide ourselves and help them to get to that level that is expected of them as responsible corporate citizens in our economy.
Very quickly, the issue of the national minimum wage seems to be a very big topic.
Yes.
And we know that for us to discuss about minimum wage, it's a tripartite thing.
Yes.
We have organized private sector, we have labor, and we have government.
That's true.
Looking at the trend, what would you say would be your reaction towards the development, especially when the government says they don't want to pay what the federal government has approved? Vis-a-vis the issue also of state government saying that they can't even afford, and that the National Assembly, even though the bill has been put on hold, the request that it should be moved from exclusive list to concurrent list. How would you react to that?
I want to start by saying that the minimum wage as set now is not really at a level that there should be debate whether it's affordable or not affordable, because it's the barest minimum that a living person required to survive. Having said that, I think especially for state governments, there should be no debate about whether they want to pay or not pay. It's a matter of setting priorities, their priorities right. If they prioritize the welfare of their workforce and they hold life as sacrosanct, I think they will prioritize the payment of the minimum wage rather than expend money on other budget heads that have less value. Secondly, with regards to whether it should be, the issue of minimum wage should be decentralized and removed from an exclusive list to concurrent or residual list, I want to say that by virtue of the fact that Nigeria is even a signatory to the International Labour Conventions, and the fact that as responsible international member of the International Labour Organization, we have an obligation as a nation. When we say the state Nigeria, we are talking of the federal government, the entity Nigeria holistically, not individual state or local government signing agreement. It is Nigeria that signed the agreement, and it is a national issue. Secondly, you discover that when you look at the disposition of our governors to the issue of salary payment and minimum wage, as we speak, some of them are even paying 50% of their staff salaries, which means if you give them the opportunity, they will do less than the minimum wage. And that is the reason why there is the need for us to maintain that semblance of common sense by regulating it at the federal level. Even when you still have it as a law, they are flouting it. How much more when it is in their control? And I also see it as an opportunity for us to do a social redistribution of income. So it's the least that we can do to restore the dignity of the workforce. So it should be a national item, and government should encourage every stakeholder to implement to the fullest.
Okay, my concern now, or many people's concern now, is are there policies that can be put in place by the federal government or by relevant stakeholders to ensure that businesses thrive, and of course it will translate to better decent work for an average employee?
Job creation, like we have always said, is the business of the private sector, not even government. However, for private sector to be able to create jobs, there is the need for government to create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive and be able to create jobs. The major challenge that is facing businesses in Nigeria, even though the federal government has actually been trying with regards to improving our rating in the ease of doing business index, but we are far from getting to that promised land. One step forward, 3 steps backward. We need to consistently continue to improve the ease of doing business so that businesses will be able to have that enabling environment to create jobs. There are lots of disincentive to businesses that needs to be eliminated. The third, which is like it, is that even the informal sector that is also supposed to be a major catalyst in job creation, for them to do this, there is the need for us to move them from informal to formalization. But entrepreneurs in the informal sector are more comfortable being in the informal sector because they see how businesses in the organized sector are treated, and they don't want to experience that. Is it the issue of regulatory stranglehold on businesses? Is it the issue of multiple taxation? Is it the issue of local government rascality? Is it the issue of even the insecurity? And so on and so forth. So we need to create that conducive environment for us to perform our role as businessmen who will be able to engender job creation.
Thank you very much for your time.
It's my pleasure.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember that labor creates wealth.